So I've been lucky enough to have been mentored by 18 centimillionaires. That's people worth over 100 million. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the 6 best pieces of advice I got from 6 of them. Now, this is the stuff you're going to read in books or hear in podcasts. This is real source they shared with me over lunch or dinner and over 6 years of me knowing these guys. So let's start off with the first person. Okay, so the first person is Nick Wheeler, and his takeaway is you win by doing the basics well. Now, before we go into that, what is Nick Wheeler famous for? He's famous for starting a business called Charles Tyrwhitt. He started it over 2 decades ago, and Charles Tyrwhitt just sells shirts to men. That was their business over 20 years ago. It is their business now. And this is why his big takeaway I got from him every time we have lunch or dinner is, look, I just sell one product, I sell it to one sort of customer, and I've been doing that for over and over again, and that is the reason why I've won. And so the takeaway for so many entrepreneurs is, look, we have so much choice. One day you could do an AI agency, one day you could do drop shipping, one day you could do social media marketing, one day you could do all of these things, and then what happens is that you kill yourself by distraction. And it is my belief that entrepreneurs kill themselves by distraction rather than being killed by competitors. And Nick's advice here of just focusing on one business, one customer, and just zeroing on that is why he's won. So if you want to be like Nick, if you want to build a business that's making hundreds of millions every single year, obsess over that one customer and just do it for a long time and you will win. So number 2 is my friend Charles Songhurst. Now, Charles Songhurst is a billionaire and he made his money. He was an angel investor. He was actually one of our first angel investors in Fanbytes. And he made his money from angel investing in some of the biggest companies that you've heard of, including Stripe. He was early in crypto. Basically, all of the biggest tech startups in San Francisco, he invested in them. In fact, it can get very depressing because sometimes I'm on the phone with him and he'd be like, oh yeah, you know, last Friday Bill came over, and it's like, who's Bill? And it's like, freaking Bill Gates. And you're like, brother, I need to lock in more. Okay. So Charles has a very simple thesis, which is this: it's not about how hard you work, it's about what you choose to work on. And that is such a profound mental shift, because when we go on social media, we read all about, you know, working really hard, working intensely. And his thing is that he backs markets and not people. And this is a very important point. So when he looks at a business opportunity, rather than saying like, are these the right people to do it? He says, is this market a growing market? And as a result of it just being a growing market, does that mean that as long as you're in the market and you stay in, you're going to win? And if that's the case, then he backs it. And this is such a profound shift, because as entrepreneurs, we think it's all about our grind and our hard work. And I think about this even with Fanbytes, right? I'm on record to say that Fanbytes was not like the best influencer marketing company ever, even in the UK. Like, we weren't even in the top 5. But the influencer marketing market was growing very fast from 2017. And as a result, we were just like in the top 10, which therefore meant that when it came period for consolidation, we also sold. And so for so many entrepreneurs, as you're running your business, constantly ask yourself, like, am I in a fast growing market? Am I in a market that doesn't need me to be a genius? Because if it does need me to be a genius, then I am swimming against the tide. And what you want to do is actually just surf a growing wave rather than swimming against the tide. Now, the third centimillionaire I got advice from was Wal Colade. And now Wal is the first black managing partner at a major UK private equity firm. So he is a managing partner at a PE firm called Bridge. And Bridge are huge in the UK. They've bought so many companies, they've sold so many companies, they're worth billions now. And from Wal, the biggest thing I got from him was this. He said the most dangerous thing in investing and in building is confusing the signal of attention with the signal of value. Now, what does that mean? In every cycle, there's these hypey software, hypey trends. Right now, it's AI. Oh my God, you should be doing this with AI. Do this, do this, do this. If you look at Bridge's portfolio, one of the companies is a company called Blue 8. They literally provide location management services to the police. So when the police are trying to find something or find someone, the software that they use, he owns that company. Or another company is like a heat and oil company. If you want to buy heat and oil, you just go on there. People would always want to buy heat and oil. Police would always want to find bad people. They will always need software for that. And so what he focuses on is something that he calls the unchangeables. What is going to still be the same for centuries and centuries to come? Another good example is actually Amazon, right? Amazon's thing is, are people ever not going to want the cheapest thing in the quickest possible time? No. So if we place our whole business under that foundation, we are going to win. So for you, let's say, for example, you run a paid social agency, because I know a lot of people do who watch this channel. What are the unchangeables? All right, well, brands are going to constantly want new creatives and fresh creatives, and they're going to constantly want it at the cheapest possible price. That is always going to be the case. So now how can I change my value proposition to be something like every single week we deliver fresh creatives to you at a price that you can't beat even with your own in-house team? Right now, that is something which is a clear value proposition, is an unchangeable, and then you work towards delivering that. Now, the fourth guy is Oliver Samwer, and I've known Oliver for a while, and his company is called Rocket Internet. It's very famous for basically copying existing businesses and just executing them better. So for example, they started an eBay clone and they sold it back to eBay in 100 days for 50 million. They started a Groupon clone and they sold it back to Groupon within 3 years for $1 billion. Now, you can see a pattern here. Take something that's working and then execute brilliantly. And that's actually his takeaway. His takeaway is effectively that you do not have to come up with original ideas. What you need to do is see what is working somewhere and then execute incredibly fast. And this takeaway here, that violent execution is better than a perfect plan executed next week, is his mantra. And for so many entrepreneurs, especially those who are running a business and things are doing well or things are showing progress, sometimes we overplan. Sometimes we think that the answer is going to come at the end of the plan, when really what happens is that you execute incredibly aggressively and violently, and then the answers will then materialize. I have been guilty of this. You have been guilty of this. Make this your wake-up call to say that violent execution beats every single time. All right, my fifth friend is Rich Barton. Now, you may not have heard of Rich Barton, but you definitely have heard of his company. So Rich Barton founded Expedia. He founded Glassdoor, and he founded Zillow. Now, Expedia was a search engine for hotels and travel. Glassdoor was a search engine for job reviews and salaries. And then Zillow was a search engine for real estate. Have you noticed all of these things are basically the exact same thing, but just done in different categories? And I remember when I sat down with Rich, he said, look, I'm good at a specific type of thing, and I just replicate that across different industries. And as a result, that's why I've been successful, because my skills compound, my experiences compound, and also my name compounds. And a big mistake I see a lot of entrepreneurs make is that maybe they've been somewhat successful in one business, and then what they then do is they just go and jump into a completely different thing. The number of friends I've had who they've made some money from an agency business, and now it's like, boom, now I'm doing e-commerce, right? Now I'm doing B2B SaaS. It's like, bro, you are starting again from scratch. What you should be doing is saying, well, I'm good at this niche. I have this particular set of skills, and then how do I replicate them across different things? I have been guilty of making this exact same mistake. When after Fanbytes, I was like, oh, I'm good at media and services. But then for some reason, I started looking at B2B SaaS businesses. I was like, what are you doing? And I lost so much money pursuing all these different businesses that really I had no chance of winning in. And so the takeaway from Rich Barton here is that you own your area of competence, own what you're good at, and then see how you can replicate that across different categories, because that's going to be the way that you win. And now the final billionaire is my friend Kevin Ryan. Now, Kevin Ryan founded a company called DoubleClick, which he sold to Google for $3.1 billion, which eventually then ended up becoming AdWords. He also founded a company called MongoDB, which I believe on the stock market now is worth $15 billion. And so this guy knows about building really, really great companies. And the biggest takeaway I took from Kevin is this that he told me after our last lunch. He said, hiring is the business. People think it's sales and marketing and they treat hiring as an afterthought. But the business is the people that you hire, and you therefore build the people to build the business. Those are 6 of the best pieces of advice I got from 6 centimillionaires. Now, if you want to be in a room for the next generation of centimillionaires, you should join the Founder Intensive. And what we do is that we get 7 and 8 figure founders together to help them scale and position their company to exit. If you want to join that, click the link below, you apply. And if you think you're a good fit, you can join me and Uncle Warren to grow your business and explode it to the next level. Peace.